Word Balloon, celebrating 16 years of excellence for you.
As part of a small line of pieces we're doing that are kind of pin-up-y type shots where they're a little bit rougher and simpler with just a portrait of a figure, no background, I want to do something to complement the piece I did earlier with Wonder Woman, and Starfire is another favorite of mine from DC, and in particular the way she was designed by George Perez, the way she appeared for, I want to say, the first 20 years of her existence before she was changed by a cartoon version that kind of took away a lot of the alluring qualities to her that were in her initial DNA. So there's a very distinctive face, hairstyle, and vibe from her when she was first created in 1980, and I wanted to connect with that.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here, comfortable on my couch. I got a little T-shirt here hanging off the couch, for God's sake. Slob. What can I say? I'm happy to have Karl Kerchl on the show today. Karl is here to talk about a lot of his work. You know, certainly a ton of DC work, some great Marvel work as well. But also, we are here to talk about, and I want to put it up there, the Abominable Charles Christopher, a very cool webcomic that Karl is doing a Kickstarter for. Am I correct, Karl? It is a webcomic.
That's correct. Yeah, webcomic since 2007.
Great, very funny, man, and I really do like it. It reminds me of one of my favorite syndicated strips that we would get from the Chicago Tribune, and that's Shoe. In that,
I remember Shoe. Yeah, I remember that. It had like there was like a big bird character, wasn't it? It was all like it was like a newspaper or something, some kind of publication in a tree. Is that right?
You got it, man. No, and in fact, it was based on Chicago columnist Mike Royko, who was kind of our angry man here in Chicago, telling really funny editorials and essays and stuff. So yeah, we loved it, and yeah, this very much because it's a great wise ass kind of humor along with cute animals.
Yeah, I've never heard that comparison before, and I actually haven't thought about Shoe in probably 30 years, but I liked it. I actually quite liked that strip. I liked the lines. I liked the artwork a lot. It had a very like contour line kind of quality to it.
Absolutely, man. No, so have you just been posting this on your site, your Webtoon, or are you doing it at a place like Webtoons or someplace?
So I started doing this, it was 2007, and I was sharing a studio with a bunch of the guys from Toronto, like Cameron Stewart, Ramon Perez, Scott Hepburn, Andy Belanger, and others. But we were all doing corporate work. I think I was doing a Teen Titans book at the time, Teen Titans Year One, and we all just wanted to do just take one day a week that we could do our own thing. And I just came up with this sort of weird idea to do this animal strip, which is not something I ever planned. But I was doing one every Wednesday since 2007. Every week I put one up. So I did that for 7 years, I think, uninterrupted. And then I had kids and things got a bit more hectic, but it's been, sporadically going since that's 14 years. It's just been going. And it's like 400 plus strips that are just free online. So now they're at like my karlkerchl.com. You can find it all. They're all just up there. So like I've been self-publishing and collecting them in fits and starts since I think 2010. Like I did 2 volumes of it, and this is a Kickstarter for the 3rd volume, which I'm finally getting around to doing. But it's a whole different ball game. Like this Kickstarter thing is like it just sort of changed the game,
So is this the first time you've crowdfunded for
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the other ones were I just did I sold them online through my website, but they were just pre-orders. I was just like, I had a bunch of readers and I said, if you guys want this book, you can pre-buy it like you would on Amazon, and then I'll use that money to print it and I'll ship it to you. So that worked, but it's it's a very narrow focus. It's not like Kickstarter really kind of blows the doors open in terms of reach. And it's something I'd heard about, but never really experienced firsthand until now. It's been a wild few weeks.
Who were your creator Kickstarter gurus in terms of comic people that have done it and done it either successfully or not successfully?
Well, I've had a few. So initially, I was listening to podcasts. Tyler James has a really good podcast called Comics Launch, which is just like a deep dive into Kickstarter strategies. And I recommend, if you're going to launch a Kickstarter or even thinking about it, you should go listen to it. He's just giving out incredible advice on a regular basis. Dave Kellett and Brad Geiger do a podcast called Comic Lab, which I like a lot. That gets beyond Kickstarter and into what I think of as the entire freemium webcomic model, which is now like Patreon, Kickstarter, and then rinse and repeat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're right.
Sam Noir from Toronto has been incredibly helpful in just kind of he's run a bunch of them. And he's, I've been on and off the phone with him, just listening to him give me advice. He's got a ton of amazing advice. And then my studio mate, Andy Belanger, just ran his first one a few months ago. And we learned a lot. I kind of helped him behind the scenes. So there's a lot. I mean, I've published books before on my own, but I've never done anything. I've never had to, what the big difference is? It's if anything, it's teaching me how to market stuff. I'm used to sitting by myself and just hoping people find the work. And Kickstarter is, once you get it going, it's kind of, it feels like it's kind of running itself. It's sort of like Kickstarter's sort of back end algorithm kind of takes over to a certain point. But every day I'm just trying to figure out ways to talk about. I'm learning how to talk about my work, which I'd never had to do before.
I can appreciate that, Karl, honestly. And congratulations. I mean, we're under 2 weeks left in the campaign, but I'm glad that it's doing well. And also, isn't it interesting, because I'm finding this even from a podcasting standpoint, having done audio for so long and just really doing video consistently for the last 15 or 16 months now. Mm-hmm. And you develop a different audience. And I think that's really interesting. And different from the direct, in your case, the direct market, obviously. And I've really, having observed Kickstarter really from the start with Word Balloon and stuff, it is interesting to see how it's evolved, gotten so big, and really, again, is its own comics community alongside the direct market. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I've talked to just over the course of this, this few months, I've because I also did another free webcomic I put online, and I had some, I spoke to some publishers as a result of that. And what I'm finding really fascinating is that I think Kickstarter and Patreon have proven out what I always believed, which is that all of these markets are separate things. And the cool thing is that publishers now get that, when I'm speaking to people now who are interested in publishing my work through the direct market or something, I'm always surprised to learn that they understand that they can take this material and publish it, even though I've been giving away for free, and I've also done a Kickstarter edition of it. None of those really overlap to any great degree, so I think it's great for everyone. I've always kind of known this, or at least felt it, but now it's I have statistics, which is amazing. It's cool to see people coming around and kind of getting on board with this model. I think it just benefits everyone.
I agree, and again, it's that direct to the consumer, because again, stores know their audience, and they have the right to order what they need to, because it is such a narrow margin of profit versus overhead, that I understand when, hey man, look, my place, it's got to be superheroes. That's it. That's my customer base. That's it. What are you going to do? But this is great, because then through these other platforms, you can go to people that do appreciate other forms of comics, other genres of comics, and cultivate your own audience. Do you know Ryan Brown in here in Chicago? Have you met him?
I don't think so.
Okay, he's like my great local example of a Kickstarter guy. God Hates Astronauts.
Oh, I know God Hates Astronauts. Sure.
There you go. He's the creator of that. And he did it all on Kickstarter to the degree that when they offered him an Image deal and he did it for 12 issues, he's like, I'm doing better on Kickstarter. Thanks.
Yeah,
Walked away.
But he could do both, is what I'm saying.
True. That's true, too. You're right about that, man. That's a very good point. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
The other neat thing about watching people launch things on Kickstarter is that it appears to be like an inverse trend from what you'd see in direct market sales, in that, like, if you put out a first issue of a book in the direct market, it'll sell really well at issue 1 and then just through attrition just drop down to, like, it'll plateau somewhere. But the curve is inverse on Kickstarter, where, like, you start off at whatever, and then you just keep building on that. And I keep seeing all these people launching their series that were totally unknown. Like, they're not industry professional, like industry mainstream professionals, but they're killing it. Like, they're doing better and better with each successive issue, and they're selling issues, which is the other amazing thing. Like, it's not trades, it's like 20-30 page issues.
Yeah, so, no, you're right about
power
that.
to them. It's really cool.
I completely agree, and that's why I am always happy to hear from creators that are doing that and just self-publishing and stuff. And I'm always willing to look over something. And please, who the fuck am I? As far as taste or anything else. But I don't do reviews. But what I do is I certainly accept people going, hey, I got a book. Will you check it out? And it's always to my own taste of, I want to talk to you. And again, a lot of these people like yourself and like Browning and stuff, again, find great success doing their own thing. And again, I mean, you come from the background of having already done years of, work at the big two. Mm-hmm. That can only take you so far, though. And again, obviously, I'm sure tons of people that are fans of, Charles Christopher, they know you from this, and they may not know your Marvel and DC stuff.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. Like, I think that can take you as far as you want to go with it. If you have like other itches that you need to scratch, I mean, it's just like that. Those opportunities are all there. Like, I started noticing maybe like in 2010 or something, 2011, like when I would go to a convention, like a slightly larger proportion of the people coming to my table were now from this webcomic. And those readers don't have any idea that I'm drawing Superman or whatever. And the Superman readers don't know that I'm doing a webcomic, and that's all.
Sure.
So it's all there on the table. Like, I think I've been a difficult person to pin down professionally in terms of like careers and styles, because like I've always been sort of all over the map,
Absolutely, man. Here I got some great examples of DC work you've done. That's awesome. Is that from a new coming Justice League?
No, that's an old variant cover I did for, I don't even remember what it was for. It was like, I think it was either Superman, Wonder Woman, or a Batman, Superman. It was a variant cover for something, and they just said, do whatever you want. I just made up a kind of like a manga futuristic take on
well, that's what's funny, because it looks like that might be John Kent's Superman, and that could be, and I forget her name, her Brazilian name, but young Wonder Girl now that's kind of taking over, and that could easily be the next Batman, for God's sake.
Totally could. I never thought about it. I haven't looked at this piece in a while, but it does kind of looks a bit familiar now.
That's
Yara
awesome.
Flor, is that her name?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, say it again, because I
think it's Yara Flor. I haven't read
Yara
any
Flores. I believe that's correct. Absolutely. Good. Name check us, everybody, if I'm getting it wrong.
I could totally be wrong. I don't know.
Of course, Gotham Academy, great run, really fun, fresh title. I really, I mean, is it still going right now? Forgive me.
No, it stopped. It kind of got. We did. So Becky Cloonan and Brendan Fletcher and I started that book. It's still one of my favorite things ever. It's basically when DC was kind of switching up things in the Bat offices, and and Becky got asked to do a take on something in the Batman universe, and we were all sharing a studio, and she pitched this, and we all just kind of jammed on it together, and it was the most fun I've ever had in mainstream comics. No, I drew 12 issues of it, and then I wrote some more of it with Brendan after Becky left, and it went on. DC did the whole, I think it was like the New 52. No, what was it? Or
Rebirth?
Rebirth. Yeah, it was I think it was Rebirth. Anyway, it got rebooted in Rebirth, and then they did like a second semester, and then I think it kind of wrapped up after another 10 or 12 issues. I'm not sure. Anyway,
understood.
Yeah, it's something we've been meaning to get back to at some point.
I certainly hope so, man. And then meanwhile, during Rebirth, you were doing Flash covers and stuff.
Yeah, I did a few of those. I've done a lot of Flash stuff. I did the Wednesday Comics Flash story.
Yes. Who was the writer on that again, Karl?
Myself and Brendan Fletcher again. So Brendan Fletcher is my childhood friend. So we worked on Gotham Academy, Wednesday Comics. Isola is our thing, and basically everything we're working on together.
Oh, it's so funny. All right, and yeah, we're getting confirmation on Yara Flores from from Leandro. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Leandro.
Very good. I appreciate that.
I said it with authority, but I wasn't actually.
Well, no, you did good. I got to tell you, Brandon, I've talked to a few times over the years, mostly at Artist Alley. I've yet to have him on Word Balloon, so I'm so glad to have you on. Beyond talking about everything you're doing currently and your past work at DC and Marvel, you're a fellow podcaster, and not only that, you're a fellow original podcaster. Like when did it was called?
Man. Yeah, like
HOR.
I'm going to say
it's the Horcast, and it has nothing to do with prostitutes. HOR cast. Go on.
It's probably around somewhere. I have them all archived somewhere. It was called the Horcast, HOR cast.
Okay.
When did we start it? Brendan and I started. Brendan is a singer. Like he was recording stuff all the time, and he had a mini disc recorder, and so we would just go out with our friend and sit around and turn the recorder on and talk about comics. So we started putting this thing out. We're also tech nerds. I mean, we just loved like the idea of tech and doing podcasts, and no one was doing comics podcasts. So we put these things up on. Do you remember when Apple first announced their whole podcasting thing? And so it was then, and I think we did a bunch of episodes. We interviewed a lot of people because we'd go to conventions, and we did a really good one with Greg Rucka. I think we did Brendan did a long Frank Quitely interview. Yes. Sometimes we do in-depth, like just process stuff. But I think he'd kind of he moved or something happened, and then we couldn't really keep up with the recording. But then, I've been listening to, I recall listening to Word Balloon, I think in 2005, I want to say, I was working on Adventures of Superman, and your show was the only consistent, really solid comic show. So you basically just took the baton and ran with it. And so,
truly, you predated me, and I know, again, I was definitely listening to you before I started Word Balloon, and I absolutely remember the Rucka interview in particular, which I thought was great. It was just, again, exactly the vibe I was hoping for, especially coming from sports talk radio. Mm-hmm. I'm like, it's just guys hanging out. And thankfully, you guys had that great professional perspective of being able to talk process and really talk about being edited and write, collaboration with a writer. And it was great. And truly, I'm so glad to hear that you've got them archived. Dude, what are you waiting for? Repost those things. They're great.
I guess I could. There's no reason not to. I mean,
should.
I will. I'll go find them. But they're on hard drives somewhere. They might be I wonder, if you search the Apple podcast archives, would they show up? I mean, they were.
I wasn't sure because I don't know if, from a proprietary standpoint, once you upload your MP3s to iTunes, are they all sitting there? I mean, they years ago. And again, I get it because I have over 1,000 episodes. They're like, okay, you can only post 300 at a time or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like they were unless they're posted online somewhere else, I don't know if they would show up on an Apple search or not. I don't believe so, but I could.
I have them. So if when I find them, I will let you know.
Please do, man, because truly, I said the same thing to Brendan. I'm like, why'd you guys stop? And again, I get it. You guys weren't near each other anymore, but now certainly. And even before this, Skype from an audio standpoint and stuff, there's again, they were great, and I would totally vote for you guys coming back because there are so few. There's 1,000 at least, if not more, comic book podcasts out there. I do think, again, you guys had a great perspective being pros. Sean Crystal has that with his show.
Yeah,
and
I love Sean's show.
I mean, that comes immediately to mind. And as you said, the people that you mentioned are great, podcasters as well, and understand process and really are helpful. And yeah, so that's terrific.
I guess I just felt like, there are so many podcasts now, and it seemed like the market is probably flooded with that. Like, does anyone need more comics content? But especially since a lot of pros do it now too. People will just
true. Oh, absolutely.
Chat with each other. But yeah, again, I did enjoy it. I mean, I would like to. It was a great excuse to just talk to people.
But also the value of what those creators were thinking at that moment. Because I mean, and it's so sad we lost David Anthony Kennedy last month, or actually maybe even in May. I can't remember now. I think it was the end of May. And he was the guy who published Comics Interview in the 80s and in the 90s. And another inspiration to me was Amazing Heroes, Fantagraphics publication, and of course the Comics Journal. But that's the thing; it's like those are real time capsules of this is what Frank Miller was thinking while he was making Dark Knight or Sin City or whatever. And I just think that's very, that's good. We need stuff like that. And again, even your guys' stuff from 2005 and 6, however long you did it. I mean, yeah, I just think that you've got some pretty cool stuff, and it stands out, even if you were just to repost it and not do anything new. But yeah, I would definitely make it available because
it was certainly interesting as a time capsule thing. I mean, I do love going. Actually, the kayfabe guys are basically. I went to their channel because, I mean, I have all those old issues of Wizard. Like I don't need to watch that, but it's just nice to see someone else go back and flip through them and speak about it analytically, especially since so much of it is relevant to what's happening now. Like you can just see all these parallels, and just it's interesting to look back and see like, oh, well, here's the point where we fucked up, or here's the point where this or that happened. So like, I mean, it's nice being able to look at it with that kind of perspective.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. Ed and Jim are terrific. And it's, as far as I'm concerned with those guys, totally mutual admiration. I'm glad that they, want to come on Word Balloon when they do. And I love Cartoonist Kayfabe. I think it's an excellent show. And again, it's from a pro's perspective. These guys know what they're talking about. No, it's great. And yeah, and also, yeah, again, people love nostalgia. And yeah, I think really the last 30 years of comics is definitely a very interesting. Well, those are really, you could argue 3 different eras. Really, the 90s, the aughts, and then the 2010s and where we are now and everything.
Yeah, for sure. Certainly in the attitude toward the work. I mean, like you can just see the style of the comics change over those few decades. No question. I'm going to bring up the Kickstarter page, and while I'm doing that, though, I want to talk and reach back to Teen Titans 01. And that was a great series. What was that like for you? That was awesome too. That was I think 2006. I was working on that, and it was written by Amy Wolfram, who was a writer on the animated show on Teen Titans Go.
Yes.
And the cool thing about it was that she had never written comics, so she just like they brought her in, and she had it was beautiful because she had just this naivety about what it meant. Like she's used to working in animation. She's used to working collaboratively and in like writers' rooms often, and just with a lot of people. And comics is such an insular thing. And I don't think she was prepared for that. So I was just on the phone with her a lot, just talking. And, we'd talk about things we liked about the story, and like things would shift and change. And it was just a breath of fresh air. And I wanted to do something that was, for kids, something that was like just a lighter take on those characters. And I think it's like, I should say, I'm pretty certain it's not what DC would have like wanted from a Teen Titans Year One miniseries, and it's probably not what a lot of the fans wanted. But I think it stands up well as its own weird thing. Like I'm still really proud of that series. It's like Baltazar and Franco with Tiny Titans. Mm-hmm. And I think it's not quite like it sort of walks that line where like you might like a hardcore Teen Titans fan might pick it up and think, oh, maybe this is for me. And I think it is. Like, I think it's kind of for everybody. But it's not outright like children's fare. Like it's supposed to be like, my thought was like they're teenagers. Like, let's make this as awkward as possible.
Yeah, it's a YA Titan story, I think. Absolutely, man. Have they collected it?
Yeah, it's been republished a couple times in trade format.
That makes sense. Well, and certainly currently it looks like they're really trying hard with these young adult graphic novels that they're making. And we're getting lots of different styles and also lots of different interpretations of the characters.
Yeah, I think Gotham Academy was sort of on the bleeding edge of that when was that, 2013, 2014? And it didn't really fit with a lot of the rest of their lineup. But since that time, they've for sure figured it out. I mean, there's a lot of cool YA stuff coming out from DC.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think they were just aiming the product at the wrong audience, like the direct market, that, it's like, well, we would like the Titans this way. And as you saw before we got started, I played the Alex Ross thing where he's showing classic Stargirl, or Starfire rather. And it's like, again, he's not wrong. It's like, no, this is how she was for 20 years. We don't, nobody's got a problem with the kid version and stuff, but it's like, sorry,
there's just different versions for different audiences. Yeah. I've actually been really enjoying, I guess Perez has been on my mind a bunch lately, just because I've been listening to all of Liefeld's podcasts, and he's just like, it's basically just a long love letter to the comics he grew up with. So like, he's just talking about old John Byrne comics, old George Perez comics. And a lot of Frank Miller. But anyway, like, I've been thinking a lot about these old like George Perez Teen Titans comics lately. So it was weird to see Starfire up on the screen there. I haven't seen her in a long time.
Exactly. That gives me an excuse to bug Liefeld about coming back. I haven't talked to him in about a year. It's
His
crazy.
Show is great. I love that. Like, it's such
so agree. I immediately emailed him. I'm like, dude, I'm so glad you're doing this. Because he's hilarious. He's fun to listen to.
He's an amazing storyteller. And also, like, the stuff he's talking about just totally scratches this itch I have for early 90s industry business. Like, I just want to know how, because I was trying to break into the industry at that time, and just to hear about the machinations of what the hell was going on in like the X offices and like just people, like bankruptcy, like all these different things. It's amazing to hear that stuff from someone who was there at the time.
Agreed. And it's weird because that was kind of my blind spot, because that's when I was, post college and couldn't afford to go every week and buy books and stuff like that. And also, I have to admit, the product kind of turned me off because it was art first, story not even second. I don't know where story was in the list, but everything was a splash page. And again, at least my feeling reading books at that time was art was more important than story. Nothing wrong with art. I love comic book art. I'm glad we're talking. And again, lots of great artists from that period, but I just didn't get back to it until the late 90s, really after all the bankruptcy scares. And when Palmiotti and Joe Quesada were doing Marvel Knights.
Oh man, yeah.
Kevin Smith's writing Daredevil, and it's as good as Frank Miller's, or it echoes Frank Miller. And I'm like, I read that. And that's when I discovered Rucka and Brubaker and Brian Bendis and, just that class of late 90s, early 2000s. And by 2005, I'm like, I think I want to start a podcast. And, did you guys read that Wired magazine article? It was in like February of 2005. That's what inspired me eventually to get to it in May. It took me 3 months to do it.
It's possible. I don't remember now, but I don't know what the actual impetus was, other than like we just kind of like we were just following a lot of tech trends, and it was a frustrating time in a way because we had all these ideas of things we wanted to do, or at least I did, things I wanted to be able to share different things online. Like I had a website, I had a blog, like simple things. Like I wanted to be able to, I remember like trying to spending hours trying to figure out how to just like show in my sidebar like what music I was listening to. And there weren't convenient plugins for that at the time. Like,
Nope.
And now it's like, like this predated all social sharing stuff, but like the impetus was there to do that. It's just that it wasn't convenient or easy. And then of course now everyone shares every last thing.
Well, and thank God there are these plugins that make it that much easier. Even for a while recently, wordballoon.com wasn't updating for me. And I kind of just let it, stay static and not do anything with it. And then finally last year, I found the right widgets to share audio and video on a regular basis. And I'm like, now everything's fine and everything's working again. So, if you want one-stop shopping, everybody, wordballoon.com, that's where the archive is. And that's where you can find the YouTubes and the audios and stuff. So there you go. And also the other interesting thing is, man, 30 years ago, it was all about media consolidation on the TV and radio side. And now you're seeing it on the digital side. And Spreaker, the network that I put my podcast on, that platform, they got bought by iHeartMedia. And I'm like, okay, now I'm on iHeartMedia as well. And it's like, oh, and by the way, you want to be on Spotify? Sure. No, I mean, they didn't throw me $150 million like Joe Rogan. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But, I'll be there. That's all right. So, yeah, it's again, much like comics, very interesting time. Everything's changing.
Well, I was listening. Speaking of Rogan, I was listening to. I don't remember. I think he was talking to Bill Burr, and I always think of this. Burr was saying, like now we're in a place where people are just asking comedians for rights to their podcasts now, rights to everything, which is a kind of a scary place to be. I mean, yes, it's cool that people have now understand the power of a show like this, but also shitty that now everything is up for being taken from you.
Well, again, like I heard that interview and I'm with Burr where it's like, own your shit. Don't sell your shit. And in fact, I have through the years been offered, hey, do you want to put Word Balloon on our network? And I'm like, do I still own it? Oh no. And I'm like, well, then why would I make a deal with it?
Yeah.
And even very big boys like the former CBS digital channels, it's like, hey, if you want to move Word Balloon here, and I'm like, no, but what I will do, if you're interested, I'll make a similar show and do it for you because I don't have a problem with that. But I'm like, no, Word Balloon's mine. And really, God, I mean, the worst happened to me. I might have told you that off the air I got downsized last year. I did tell you this. And yeah, the audience knows. And thank you, audience. I mean, honestly, you guys stepped in and you like Word Balloon and you like to support it. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. And I can't thank you enough. And Patreon has been a great source. And also AlexRoss.com, Aftershock Comics, and all my sponsors that pop up now and then. Terrificon is currently doing it for their convention at the beginning of August, first weekend in August. So are you doing shows? Are you going to have you
not yet.
Okay.
I've been invited to one or two and I haven't, I have not accepted. They were either conflicting with something or just too soon. I've just now been double vaccinated.
Okay.
I don't think I'm quite ready, but probably next year, I think I should be psychologically ready to go.
Hey man, don't kid yourself. And we all know people that are gun shy about being in public right now because of the lockdown, and I can respect that. Definitely. I mean, I'm like, thank God, get me out there, but it is still weird. And I mean, every now and then, a couple of Fridays ago, I was picking up takeout, and there were a lot of bars on the street that the place I was going to, and it was lines for the bars, and it felt like a normal Friday night. And it was like, thank God. And again, everybody get vaccinated. I'm not saying don't get vaccinated. That's not my message here. But truly, it's like, yeah, get vaccinated so we can get, try to have some sense of normalcy moving forward.
Yeah, Montreal is kind of the same. It was just in the last week, I've noticed places are open and people. It looks normal, which is amazing. Yeah.
I really hope to get to Montreal eventually. I'm sad that I haven't yet. Because, a lot of your studio mates, including yourself, it's like, no, it'd be great to hang out and see you and stuff. Oh, good. Denny Dude wanted to know a very interesting question, and I intended to bring this up. What's going on with Isola?
It is, well,
Or Isola?
yeah, it's Isola.
Isola. Okay, there you go.
Hi, Deanie dude. It's what's going on with it is so we finished the second arc of it and put out the second trade. It was basically ready to publish right before the first lockdown happened. So we sent in the files, printers shut down. And so when they reopened, it came out, I think it was in like April or May or June, whenever things are open again, and kind of got buried because no one knew it was out there. So then Brendan Fletcher, my partner on that book, got COVID, and he was extremely sick for several months. So we stopped working on it. I worked on another little online comic I was doing just for fun. And then when Brendan got better, we started writing again. And long story short is that I'm working on pages, and it will come out at some point. We're working on the third chapter now, and I just have to figure out basically how we're going to release it. We don't know how it's still going to be published by Image. I just don't know where, when, or in what format exactly. But we're working on it.
No, I understand. Hey, and again, I'm so glad Danny brought it up, because congratulations. It's a great book, and certainly one of the subjects I wanted to cover tonight. So it's good. That's good to hear, and I'm sure a lot of people are relieved. I got a great from your. You'll forgive me, man. From your, I'll put it up while we're talking. Actually, I'm going to go to the next question. While we're doing that, I'll put up the Isola image. But I want to get to this. Tom has a great question. I've heard entrepreneurs say things like good is better than perfect, getting a product or a project out. Do you think that's true of work like comics? Is it better to fail fast in comics, or to really focus on the best you can the first time out?
Oh, that's a tough one for me to answer, because I tend to, I'm a kind of a perfectionist. I don't like to release anything before I'm super happy with it. But I think that's probably bad advice. I think that the more I do this, the more I think it's most important to just finish a thing. It might not be the perfect version of that thing that was in your head, but start on something small, like a short story, finish it, just get it out there, and then don't look back, and then move on to the next thing and finish that. And this is not at all what I did, but it's what I would recommend to people. I think finishing something, is better than waiting around till it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add, and again, what the fuck do I know? But I would say for these first efforts, no matter what, almost do what you're doing with Charles, and that is put it out there for free and print up copies, because at least get your work exposed. Perhaps, and there's an accepting online free audience that might take whatever level you're currently at, or whatever it looks like. And also, make the physical thing that you might be able to hand sell at shows or stores or whatever. And then, it's the Malcolm Gladwell thing. You need your 10,000 hours. You need your 1,000 pages, before you really are, confident of getting something going. So, yeah.
Man, that's my advice to everyone, not just amateurs or aspiring people, but anyone who will listen. I would, anything I do now, I want to put it online for free. I don't care what it is. Whatever I'm doing, I want to put online for free, to let people read it, to build an audience, to just get people invested, to even just to see if it's any good, just to get some eyeballs on it. And then, you still own it, then you do whatever you want for it. If this Kickstarter has taught me anything, aside from the marketing stuff we already talked about, it's that if people like a thing, they will come out and support. This is a free webcomic. It's funding really, really well, and it is essentially a free webcomic. You can go read this comic for free, all of it. I'm not gating any of it. It's all there. But it's people want to support artists, and they want to support the work that they like. And I said this to Ramon, I think, when I was talking to him the other day, but on his show. But I always paraphrase Neil Gaiman, who said that nobody's favorite book is one that they bought for themselves. Everyone, your favorite book. When I think of giving away free stuff, I think you might not buy this book, but if you like it, you'll probably buy it and give it as a gift to someone. You've probably given your favorite book as a gift to like a dozen people, you know?
Yeah.
I just really believe in the model. Like I would suggest to anyone, just whatever you're doing, put it online for free. It's easy. It's free publication, and then monetize it when it makes sense afterwards.
Karl, this is why I feel a kinship with comic book creators, because that's exactly what I'm doing with Word Balloon. And I believe in the free model as well. It's like, no, I am 16 years in. I am still gathering my audience. I take nothing for granted. I meet creators and listeners. I still get emails for the first time. Wow, I never heard your show up until recently, or watched you until recently. I like what you do. And that's huge, because it's Johnny Appleseed. It's one listener at a time. And I'm patient. I'm playing the long game. And it was so funny because I even remember, and I don't even know if you guys were paying attention at this point. Some people going, hey, podcasting's found its plateau. It's not going to get any bigger. And this was like 10 years ago. And this is even coming from, what's his name? Not Adam Curry, the guy who he was at CNET, one of the great like classic traditional podcast fathers. And I can't think of his name right now, but he came from traditional radio and TV. I can't think of his name, but regardless, even he was saying it. And it's like, look at where we are 10 years later, like you mentioned, the Bill Burr and Rogan conversation. Also, I love the fact, and I don't know how much you listen to this, but I love dramatic audio. And then it's almost a return to classic old time radio and stuff.
For sure. Some people do amazing production on some of these. I was listening to one I liked recently was it was Inside Psycho. Did you listen to that one?
No, tell me.
Oh man, it's just a guy doing a deep dive on the making of Psycho, but like he does all these dramatic like re-recordings and like he's telling a story, but also like doing like transcribed interviews and dramatic recreations of things, and it's awesome. I think he did Jaws also. I think he did Inside Psycho, Inside Jaws. Oh, Inside the Exorcist. That was a
oh my God, that's great. That's fantastic.
So look those up. They're awesome.
I will, because Gabe Hardman and I were exploring The Outer Limits, the original series, and Joe Stefano, the guy who wrote the screenplay to Psycho, he created co-created The Outer Limits, and especially in the first season, wrote like 13 episodes himself. And so we did such a deep dive. In fact, Stefano's son, who has ownership of all of Stefano's original stories, he can't call it Outer Limits, but if he wanted to remake some of those like incredibly great first season Outer Limits stories, he could. And so he published a script book. But yeah, I became aware of our show. We did an interview just talking about Stefano, and certainly Psycho came up. So that's great. I'm a big fan of Katrina Longworth's old Hollywood show called You Must Remember This.
I've seen the title of it. Yeah, I don't think I've ever listened to it though.
It's just like you described in terms of it's just her narrating a script, but then she will cut into recreations and she'll hire actors to play different roles and stuff. It's very well made, and in fact, a genre I would like to explore myself, probably in boxing, because I covered boxing for 16 years, and I have a narrative podcast idea of covering that period when Joe Louis retired up through Floyd Patterson losing to when Sonny Liston, where I should say when Floyd won the heavyweight championship, and Customato, Mike Tyson's old manager trainer, before this is in the 60s, was able to go, we're not going to deal with the mob anymore. And pretty much was very vocal about the fact, like, yeah, organized crime has been running boxing for the last 20 years and even earlier. But yeah, we're not going to do business with these guys anymore. So it was a very interesting time. It's kind of the Sopranos meets quiz show in a lot of ways.
That would be a great show. I mean,
thank you.
It's like, I guess it's just a matter of like production and time and organization, right? Like that's not my strong suit. That's why I'm making comics, because it's like a one-to-one. Like I can just do it by myself. As soon as I have to involve other people, that's when things start not happening.
Well, that's why you and I are talking, Karl, and you don't see another co-host with me. So believe me. I mean, I got my Screw Around show with Art and Franco, and that's where we'll just talk comics and just crap along and everything. And I even occasionally will do a boxing podcast because it's a subject that I find interesting, and I covered it for 16 years.
So has not being able to go to shows affected your podcasting at all? I mean, it's like seems fairly
No.
accessible to just do it like this.
Well, yeah, because and also years ago, God, I love talking about podcasting with others who understand it. Years ago, I stopped doing floor interviews and even setting up the idea of, well, unless it's a really good friend and I don't feel like I'm imposing on their time on the floor to sell what they're there to sell and everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, and of course I would do panels, and I love doing, and I'm looking forward to Terrificon. We were this afternoon going over a list of the panels I'll be doing there. But yeah, I stopped doing floor interviews because everybody does them. And also, thankfully, I've been around long enough that I can really just network and be like, I don't want to talk to you today. I know you're busy signing, and I'm sure other people are going to bother you for floor interviews. Let's talk on the phone. Let's talk on Skype. Let's talk on Zoom. And now YouTube. And of course, during the pandemic and during the lockdown, everybody was home.
Yeah.
So it was really,
also those floor interviews more often than not suck. I mean, like, the sound is terrible. Like you're getting these guys who are like, they're just trying to like sell stuff behind their table. Like they've got like a million things going. Their attention is like 1/3 on this interview. And then maybe you find like a little back room somewhere and it's still kind of shitty. I don't know. Yeah. It's like you're better off just getting into like proper conversations face to face.
And again, no disrespect to the people who still do that, but that's the difference between people who understand. God damn, and I don't mind breaking bad on this. DC wanted to set up a floor interview with me and Lee Bermejo at San Diego, and this is within the last 5 years when they still had the big booth, and they had a platform where they were doing live interviews themselves, and they're like, "No, you got to do it here." And I'm literally like 10 feet away of the PA system blasting this interview. I'm like, "This is gonna sound like shit." And I told the PR person, she's like, "Well, that's not my problem." I'm like, "Well, I'm not doing the interview." So Lee,
the stuff they were doing, was it the recording, or is it just like just broadcast out live? They didn't care if it sounded bad.
Yeah, Chalk talks loud with the live audience.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, you're an idiot, and I don't mind saying that now, and I won't name the person, but it's like, this defeats everything I'm trying to do right now. Well, that's not my problem, and I'm like, well, then I guess we're done here. And I told their supervisor what had happened, and I'm like, that's really stupid. They used to have private rooms, and I didn't mind that because I would sign up for those because those were easy. There are different PR people now in charge, and they get it, and they're very good, and they're very cooperative, and that's great. Marvel has never been a problem. I lucked out. How a lot of core Marvel creators were coming on back in 2005 and 2006. And let the people upstairs know. It's like, no, John does a good job. He knows what he's doing. And so it's like, whoever you want to talk to. I'm like, can I talk to Kevin Feige? Well, almost anybody. Well, no. I'm like, all right, fine.
How long do you have to be doing this before you get to talk to Kevin Feige? What does it take?
Yeah, no shit. The stars have to align. It's fun. And also, he was such a sweetheart about it. Dan Buckley, the publisher, was like, he's like, John, I know I can trust you, and I know you're not going to take any cheap shots, but I could inadvertently say something that the stockholders are like, we wanted to keep that quiet, and I just might blurt it out without even thinking. And I'm like, Dan, I'm never going to ask you. I'm like, yeah, at the time, it was like, can I still talk to Axel? Yes. Can I talk to anybody else? Yes. I'm like, fine. I'm like, I don't need to talk to you. Don't worry about it. It's all right. And then, so who knows? I'm going to talk to CB at Terrificon, and I'm looking forward to that. And I might get him to talk before the show and everything as well on Word Balloon. We'll see. But yeah, no, it's really, really interesting. And again, man, DC used to always be so corporate and like, we'll let you know who to talk to. And I'm like, yeah, how about I'm going to like do end runs around you guys for the next 10 years and talk to whoever the fuck I want, because that's what's going to happen. And it did. And finally, the current regime is like, and truly, they get the value of this stuff, and they're like, okay, we know you're not going to take any cheap shots. Who have you not had on that we can help you with? And I'm like, that's great. And that was at the beginning of the pandemic, and I hadn't talked to Grant Morrison in 10 years. I'm like, get me Grant, and he came out. He was terrific. We had a great time. So
he's always amazing to listen to. Another podcast I like, it just
Oh,
reminded me,
please.
is David Harper's Off Panel podcast. I love David. He's like, I love, like, not just his podcast, but his entire journalistic sense. I just love his long form coverage of comics.
Could not agree more, Carl. And in fact, I was like, I haven't seen David post an episode in a while. I didn't know he took June off. So
I actually just recorded one with him a couple days ago.
Oh, that's great.
He was on vacation. Yeah.
Yeah, and good for him. I don't blame him. I mean, he doesn't show every week and everything. That's awesome. But no, I was like, he didn't stop, did he? And then I saw on his Patreon page, he's like, I'm going to take a hiatus during June. I'll be back in July. So yeah, as we're recording this right now, I hope that there's a new off. I'm sure there will be. I'm glad to hear that he did one with you. So I'm sure he's busy cranking out shows again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited about it too. Yeah, he's a really good interviewer.
He's one of truly. There's a very small group of people that do interviews that I'm like, no, that guy's good. Like, listen to him as well. And again, who am I? But again, as someone who's been doing it a bit longer than David has, I absolutely recommend Off Panel. It's a great show.
He asks a lot of good questions. Like he's kind of, because he's also an aspiring retailer, he asks a lot of questions just out of, like, you can tell he's just gathering information. He's interested, but he's also just putting together a larger picture of the business. And so he asks good business questions. I like that kind of, like,
I completely agree.
In-depth industry stuff.
Yes, and God, when he has Brian Hibbs on, I think they're fantastic.
Oh man, those are electric. I could just listening to him rant. I'm like, I agree with everything, and it's like a lot of information coming at me at once.
Can I ask you about NFTs and your opinion on those?
Yeah, I haven't really, like, I don't want to say I don't understand them. I understand them. I just think they're kind of silly. Like, and I could be totally wrong about this, but like, it seems like a pretty short-lived gimmick to me. Like, I can't make any actual sense of it. So I guess if you've made some money off it, that's good for you. I don't see it being something I'd ever bother with.
The clearest advice that I agree with is, let's see where they are in a year from now. Maybe they'll be, because the fact that they're unregulated, the fact that Bitcoin is involved, everything that, all the negative stuff concerns me. I just talked to Paul Jenkins about this, and he's pro NFT. That's fine. I'd like to listen
to that, because I would genuinely just like to hear more perspectives.
Well, the first half is about his film documentary that he's making. The second half is about NFTs. And again, it's very interesting. I respect everybody on both sides of this. But yeah, I feel like Dave Macho had the most sage advice, and he's the one who's like, let's see where it is in 12 months, and then we'll talk. And I'm like, all right. And he reps a lot of artists in Europe and stuff.
Yep.
So I absolutely, and by the way, that's another great show. It's only on YouTube, and he may quit doing it, but he was doing it during COVID because he's like, I just can't get together. Just like you, man. It was like, I can't get together with my friends and hang out. So he did it on air, and he's like, we're talking about food. We're talking about everything. And I'm like,
what's the show? What is that one?
It's called, in Spanish, it's Dialogue de Comics or whatever. But yeah, talk of comics or talking comics. I guess that's how it translates. And he does it in English when he has American and British and, English speaking guests. It's a great show.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. And again, because he knows everybody. So everyone was willing to, everyone is, Rucka did his show. Bendis did his show. Everybody. I'm sure Rob did. I know Jill Thompson did. But yeah, it's great. It's awesome. So back to the Kickstarter, because in fact, I can share the screen, and I will in a second once I pop it up here. What the hell is it? There it is. All right, boom. So there we go, everybody. And look at that art. That's fantastic, man. So is Charles Christopher, is he a Yeti? What is he?
Yeah, he's a Sasquatch or Yeti.
Okay.
I think a Yeti is just like a South American Sasquatch or Himalayan.
Okay,
I'm not sure. Anyway, he's a Bigfoot, he's an abominable snowman, or a Yeti or a Sasquatch. I've never known quite how to describe it, other than that he's sort of a simpleton. He doesn't speak, and he just kind of wakes up one day and is trying to find out where he came from and kind of wandering through the woods and getting into all these weird situations with all these animal characters, and none of it's very planned. Like it's just like there's like a long form story to it, but often, like more often than not, it's a lot of just slice of life cutaway stuff with different animals in different kind of familial situations, or like sometimes in therapy, sometimes there's like police procedural stuff. There's like all sorts of, it's all over the place. So
again, it reminds me of Shu. I think it's great. So here are the tiers. You get for $10 just the digital edition of book 3, and for $20 the digital bundle. The soft covers kick in at $30, and the bundle for all volumes will be $60. So that's cool. Then you get them signed, $90. That's great. And there we got sketch edition. Fantastic. Very, very cool.
Yeah, those ones are limited because I can only draw in so many of them.
No, but the book plate looks good. And these look fantastic, man. That's very exciting. I mean, honestly, I can't blame people. Is this the book plate here?
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing 300 of those.
Oh, I don't know how many. It'll actually be numbered to however many people buy that tier. So, like whatever order that people purchase in is the order that they'll be numbered, and then there'll be one out of. It's a lot more than 300 now. That's for sure. Like I haven't checked the actual count yet, but I think I'm upwards of like 800 or something.
Wow! Congratulations! I was hoping to maybe show a piece of original art that might still be available, but right now, obviously, everything looks like it's sold.
Yeah, they're gone. I'm going to do some more of those this coming week, I think.
Oh, great, man.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And yeah, that's a great price. Absolutely, man. That's beautiful. So no, I'm for it. I think that's great. I'm glad that things are going as well as they are as far as the campaign. But obviously, let's make more people aware of it and direct them to your Kickstarter page and this project in particular. So beyond this and Isola, what's going on with you work wise?
Oh well, so beyond that, as I sort of alluded to before, like when I was on so there you go, the Vasix is I did a short Batman black and white story, an 8-page story.
Who wrote that?
I did that whole.
Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. I'll look it up. That's wonderful.
Yeah, please do. I'm really proud of it. It was
what was the story about? Yeah, tell me.
It was about basically it's like an occult murder mystery. So the idea was Batman and Robin go to investigate this haunted house. Batman doesn't believe in ghosts, and he ends up sort of getting pulled back in time to this 1870s seance where he basically has to solve the mystery of the murder of this dead girl. But it's a lot to cram into 8 pages, so it goes pretty fast.
Yeah, that's great, man. I'll tell you, Batman Black and White, Superman Red and Blue. I'm so glad they're making these things again because I liked the original Black and White series back in the day as well. Mm-hmm. But it just shows you in the right hands, you can tell an effective 8-page story.
I think I learned so much working on that story. Like I think doing an 8-page story is, or any kind of short story is one of the best ways to actually learn the craft of writing. Because if I'm just like left to my own devices without any actual limitations, I will just go on and on and on and on.
Sure.
And have like just lots of reaction shots and like vistas and Isola is basically that. Like it's just a book that lets us be indulgent. But the Batman Black and White story, I was like, okay, I got to tell a Batman story in 8 pages. So like, what's it? Like I just cut a bunch of stuff. Like I got to cut this. I got to cut this. Like it all just has to fit. But yeah, please check it out and let me know what you think. I will. I was really happy with it.
That's excellent, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I did that. But then kind of in the same vein, because we were on a break from Isola, I started drawing another webcomic. I started drawing this other short story I just had in my head, and it's like a short science fiction story. It's called Death Transit Tanager, and it's kind of like an homage to a lot of the manga I was reading when I was living in Japan for a couple of years ago.
Wow!
And I grew up on a lot of manga and anime.
Sure.
So I did this story, and it's basically like I describe it as like Metroid meets Hellboy. Like it's kind of like It's a space story, but like it's like a Hellboy type of story in that like it's a short story that's self-contained, but it kind of tells you something about the main character. And that's for free online. You can go to karlkerchl.com and read that for free also. So
outstanding.
Yeah, that was 20 pages. And I think what I want to do is more of them. Like it was just such a joy to do. I think I'll probably do another 20-page episode of that. And then I'll go back to Kickstarter. Like I just think it's crazy not to be kickstarting everything. Man. Yeah, that's
wonderful. There you go. Well, yeah, Vasek, he just said, and he plans to put a book out of that. Well, it sounds like that's what Karl's in the midst of doing. So that's cool. And then
Thomas is writing an 8-page of good practice. Yes. Yeah. Learn to be concise and write an 8-page story. Yeah.
Because he also said, or should you create what you plan to write and work in? Or would you say both?
What do you mean? You mean write something and
so he said, is writing a good 8-page or good practice learning to be concise, or should you create what you plan to write and work in, I guess, longer than pages?
I think writing an 8-pager is good practice. Look, like do it anyway. Like even if it's not the thing that you want to be doing, like it's 8 pages. So like try to do it. Like it's nice to have that. It's nice to have those boundaries and like not let yourself run over those 8 pages. It's really good. It's a really good study in concise storytelling.
And you'll forgive me for my armchair comic ambitions, but I have a few ideas I'd like to do. Sadly, most of the people that I encounter are A-listers like yourself, and I would never bother anyone with my A-list or with my C-list idea stories. But my stuff is always around 10 to 12 pages and not 8. Maybe if I really thought about it, I could, but I don't know. I see them more as, I really want to do small one-shots that I could give to a prospective artist and say, here, this isn't going to take you, or whatever, regardless. It's like, let's just do this small idea and not hit them with my 150-page graphic novel idea.
That's a good idea anyway. Like I would recommend doing these 8 pages just because it's achievable. Like it's, like you're not going to kill yourself doing this thing. Like you can get it done and get it out there. It just goes back to like what I was saying before about just finishing a thing. Like the sense of accomplishment in finishing anything is so powerful that like I recommend doing short things for that reason. I'll also tell you like this Batman story I did like would have been it should have been 12 pages. Like the story itself demanded 12 pages, but I just didn't have 12 pages. So I had to. So what are you going to do?
Sure.
write the 12-page story and then like force someone to cut it down to 8. Or force yourself to cut it down to 8.
Yeah, and don't be precious with my words. Absolutely. No, I think you're right about that. And Vasek agrees with you. Working with short stories starting out are more likely to get it done. And an artist is more like, absolutely, man. Well, I don't know if you know Josh Fialkoff, Karl.
No.
Okay, he's an American writer. He's doing a lot of TV these days. And his original break into comics was a series of Western stories he did called Horse and Buggy. And they were 5-page stories. And he knew he could get good artists that he had become friends with to commit to 5 pages.
Yep. Yeah.
So I get it. And also just talking to the old guard that was used to writing for the anthologies back in the day, House of Mystery and Our Army at War and all the different Star Spangled Western or whatever, they would have to write 6 and 8 page stories. And I talked to Wade about that and Walter Simonson and some of the other classics and stuff about, learning the trade that way. And they all pretty much agree with you that, no, that really is like the best way to be concise and get your idea across and, effectively storytell.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I just learned that I just hadn't been counting pages or just was oblivious at the time, but like I learned it through Liefeld's podcast also, was that comics weren't always 22 pages. They were 17 pages before. Like there's a lot of story. Like if you read those old Kirby Marvel stories, like there's a lot in those 17 pages. Like, there's no excuse really to not be able to cram a lot of story into a short number. Also, yeah, you're also right in that like almost anyone has time to take on a 5-page story. Like you can probably sell almost anybody on on that, especially if your script is half decent. Like someone
Sure.
could fit that in somewhere.
No, I get it, man, and I have a couple brief ideas that might work in that way. Yeah, but I agree with you. Yeah, I as a reader in the 70s, I remember like the 100-page super spectaculars from DC would have a front news story and then a bunch of reprints from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and that front story was 17 pages. And yeah, it was a very satisfying read.
Mm-hmm. They sure don't feel like 17 pages. Like you felt like you were, like
getting a full story. You are getting a full story. No, they made it work.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely made it work. And again, that's the beauty, I think, of both Superman Red and Blue and Batman Black and White and everything. I just think you guys are nailing it, and they're picking great ideas and great teams. And
that's the other awesome thing is that like you get all these cool different perspectives on a character. Like you get a lot of good people coming on those books because it's such a low commitment, and because it's a chance to just kind of like, do your take on this character you love and then kind of get out of there. So yeah, I like those anthologies for that reason too.
I totally agree with you. Absolutely. Well, dude, great conversation. I'm so glad you came on, and thank you for really like tapping me and going, "Hey, can we talk?" I'm like, "Shit, yeah." I'm sorry we haven't done it sooner.
I know. I can't believe it's taken this long. As I said, I've been a fan for a long time. So it's it's been like it's taken us 15 years to.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I think just not seeing each other at a convention maybe and making it happen. So I'm glad this happened. Please come back. You're always welcome to come back.
Anytime. We could keep going like this. Like I also appreciate you having me on.
Oh, please. Yeah. No, this is great. And then again, it really put those goddamn forecasts up and everything.
I will.
Great show.
I'm going to make a note right after I get off of here.
And truly, it's as much fun talking about podcasting as it is the comics themselves. So I thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody, make sure you check out The Abominable. Is it Charles or Karl Christopher? Because
The Abominable Charles Christopher.
Oh, it is Charles. Because I saw the CH. I thought you were calling him Carl's like a hard CH.
No, you know what? It ends up sounding kind of like my name phonetically, which was not intentional. The Abominable. Anyway, The Abominable Charles Christopher. The Kickstarter is at newbook.abominable.cc. So that'll take you right to the Kickstarter page. Or you can go to karlkerchl.com and everything is there.
Yeah. And by all means, everybody, really, again, it's a week and change left to support the campaign. Absolutely worth it. Very funny stuff and cute animals, all from Karl Kerchl. I absolutely appreciate you talking today, Karl. Thank you.
Me too. Thanks again, John. Take care.
You too, man. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We're going to take a break for the weekend. Video-wise, we'll be back on Monday with brand new stuff, and it'll be another fun week of Word Balloon Live conversations.